All right, well, I'm in a room talking about stuff, and you know, uh, YouTube. It's crazy how you can kind of go down a rabbit hole on YouTube where even people that are, I didn't really grow up with uh, with YouTube or the internet really. I mean, it was there, but not until I'm almost 30, so not until probably the time I was like, you know, out of high school for sure. So probably like when I was probably like 10 years ago the internet was certainly around, but it just didn't dominate things like it has in the past, 5 or so years. Um, I think that probably has to do with like the iPhone coming out. When I was growing up, they cell phones were around and they had like a flip phone, but it was very limited in your capability of you could call people and you could text people and you could maybe play like a very basic like game on your phone. And I didn't get an iPhone, I don't think, until I was out of high school. I don't think I had an iPhone until I was maybe like in 2013. So and really like computers, really, you didn't have laptops in school. And of course, they had like the computer labs, but it was maybe just maybe once a week that you went into the computer lab. You didn't have like a personal computer that the school gave you for doing assignments or anything. Lots of the stuff we did was on paper, and you printed stuff out if you needed to do an assignment, and it got graded, with a pen from the teacher. And so, not to say that that's an archaic way or an old way, but it's just different now. Everything can be done digitally. I remember when I went to college, it was just community college for the first 2 years. Um, I was like, whoa, you can do this stuff online. Like there was this online portal where you could do your assignments, and it was like kind of revolutionary for me because it just wasn't something back in like 2000. I was in high school in like 2009 to 2012, so uh, we didn't use the internet like at all to do assignments. It was around, but it just wasn't really implemented into the school. Now it's just like everywhere, right? And I remember it was kind of rare to see people looking at their phone so much. Like there was always those kids that were relatively popular that just, even if it was a basic phone, they were always on it. And they certainly would be texting people a lot and uh, occasionally talking on the phone. But texting was a lot harder, right? It was uh, you had to do like the T9 texting or whatever, and it was kind of hard to do on a small like a flip phone. Anyways, and it was kind of weird to see people looking at their phone so much, but now it's, certainly over the past 5 years, I'd say it's like standard almost for everyone to be addicted to their phone. I would say most people, like clinically, are probably addicted to their phone. I wasn't, uh, not to say that I am, I guess. I mean, if you probably looked at me or anyone else, it's like, wow, you look at your phone a lot just because it has a lot of power, right? You can, with all the applications, you can kind of monitor everything that's going on with messaging, with news, with like buying stuff, information, talking to people. All of that is there with just in your hand. So most people, I would say, are addicted to that to the point where I think uh, I don't think people probably go more than like an hour without looking at their phone. Most people, and if they had to take it away for a few days, uh, you'd be you're just habitually looking at your phone, so it's hard to stop. The crazy thing is even like my mom or people that are even like my grandparents, uh, they didn't grow up at all with anything like that, right? And now it's just become such a part of their lives too, where there's a lot of power in the cell phone. And I'm like, whoa, what did you guys do before the cell phone was around, right? Because if you go to like, if you're just sitting around other people, oftentimes, if you're just doing whatever, they're looking at their phone or doing something on their phone, right? So it's just crazy to me that Before that, it's like, geez, what did you do before that? You were kind of forced to talk to people. You were forced to interact more with your environment. Now it's very easy to just like disappear behind your phone. And then, of course, like a big side effect of the smartphone is people. You can get really easy entertainment out of your phone with the internet and playing games and talking to people or reading certain information. Before maybe you had to go to the library, you had to go to a group where they talked about maybe a book you were reading. Now you can just kind of be very independent and do whatever you want without having to meet anyone. And it's all done whenever you want to do it at, wherever you are, in your room, in the car, wherever. So I don't know. It's really interesting, like, because there's a huge, uh, obviously, like, advantage of having information whenever you want it in the palm of your hand. Being able to teach yourself things with YouTube or uh, all of that. But the downside is there's a lot of people that are addicted to their phone. They never really learned any real skills. They don't really know how to interact with people. They can't hold a conversation. They're socially awkward or just not capable because they never had to do it. And but it's no one's fault. Like, it's the funny thing is the older generation always looks at the younger generation as if they're lazy or as if they're they just don't really like them. They look down on them like, in my day it was so much harder. These kids now have it so easy. These kids are so spoiled. Um, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're doing. And a lot of when you're talking about old people and really young people, a lot of times that's true. Just because when you're young, you don't have perspective. You don't know a lot about the world yet. And when you're older, you have a lot more experience. You've kind of been around the block. You've interacted with a lot of different systems, and you know how the system kind of works. So I can see why as you get older, your perspective changes, and it's kind of hard. People become more jaded when they get older, and younger people are much more energetic. They don't know what they don't know, so they're just green, and they oftentimes can be naive just because they don't know. But that aspect seems to like always be true. Like, as you get older, you just become, like the younger people, you just think, gosh, these people are strange or weird, or they're acting much different than I did when I was growing up. You can't blame really anyone. Everyone's just a product of their environment. If you grow up in an environment where technology wasn't big and you were forced to go work on a farm, that's going to shape you. And you had to work with your hands 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day, and then you didn't have electricity, or you didn't have a lot of amenities, let's say. You're going to be a different person than if you were born, relatively recently with an iPad in your hand, with the cell phone, not really having to learn anything outside. You don't know how to work on anything. You're using electronics a lot. You're going to have a much different perspective, just because you don't have both of those people don't have the perspective of the other side. So it's simply a case of not knowing what you don't know. There's a whole other world that, like you look at like maybe men and women, there's just certain things maybe that women don't even know about, and then vice versa too. They just, because they never had to do them, they maybe never had to learn how to like work on their car, or to, change your oil, or to fix something when it breaks, just maybe because they never had to. Someone else was always there to do it, and it was never taught to them. But I think people are really capable. Like, if they're given the education, most people can, and they apply themselves, they could figure it out how to do that, how to do those things. It's just a lack of society, or your situation. You just don't have exposure to it. So if you don't have any exposure to it and you don't really understand how it works, you're going to become kind of ignorant of it. And again, you won't really have the perspective of other people. You'll just look at life through your own lens, and you won't really understand why things happen, or you know, the processes that comprise the world we live in. So I don't know. I'm just fascinated by it because I'm still relatively young. You know, like in the game of life, right? I'm older, obviously, because I'm not in the education system still of being that young. But even in my lifetime, so much has changed. Like I was born in the mid '90s, so um, you know, you like the internet just has taken off again. Like I was saying with smartphone and communication, um, but so much technology has changed. Really, I'd say arguably more than like any other period in time. Like the 30 years that I've been alive have been there's been so much change brought about that's really like reshaped society. And I don't know. I think it'll probably be similar moving forward. It'll be you know, the next 30 years or so. It's going to be pretty interesting to see just kind of what changes happen and just the whole dynamics, right? If you think about like the family structure, even back in you know, like the 50s, like my grandparents, you know, very traditional, right? Um, you know, the house, the car, the 2.5 kids, right? It's kind of happening less so nowadays. Like the prices of everything are much more expensive. It's not just men working anymore, and there's not as many people having kids or having families even, right? So people are, you know, maybe that goes back to the women thing and the feminism thing of, uh, you know, they want to be equal, they want to have jobs, and so what that does is there's just more people working, and ultimately it drives the wages down. So labor becomes cheaper. Of course, we're not really producing anything anymore, so you know, whatever, you can say whatever you want, but what it's resulted in is where we are now, which is just a lot of inflation. There's more people working, there's less families, the prices of everything are more expensive. Um, you know, on a normal income, you know, at least where I live, and I think a lot of places uh, it's hard to have a house, but then again, if you consider having like a significant other and multiple kids, it becomes even more of an uphill battle. It seems like that was a lot more common back, you know, in the 50s and 60s for people to just kind of have normal lives and be able to afford a house and, you know, at least two cars and a couple kids and not be incredibly stressed out. Nowadays, it would seem like a crippling decision, maybe, unless you made, of course, there's people that make way more money than average, but if you just consider an average income, you got to stretch your money pretty far to make, uh, you know, to own a home and to support a family on it. So, and again, that's just resulted in what it looks like is just less people getting married, less people having kids. Um, you know, more people living in apartments, right? Because they don't want to commit to buying a house. They think it's maybe too expensive, that they can't afford it. Um, you know, and if you're in a normal job, you know, you get a 3% raise or a 5% raise every year, or whatever it is. It doesn't really do much for you. It actually every year you're working, you could argue that you're making less money because the pace of inflation is outpacing your wage increase when you get a raise every year, right? So it's very difficult, you know, from a purchasing power perspective to get ahead if you just have a normal job. That's why a lot of people are, you know, trying to do something on the side, or they're doing two jobs, or they're trying to flip houses or whatever, right? They're trying to, you know, uh, it's just, I guess what I'd say is it's hard to get ahead just kind of going the normal route of having like a normal 9 to 5 job, because you just become very normal. You don't have a lot of money. And I think when I look at people that are in that situation, and you could even consider me, like, um, when you have just a normal job and a normal existence, unless you're very frugal, and even if you are frugal, you just don't make enough money to get ahead. Your money is accounted for. And what I mean by that is you have a rent payment, you have a car. Let's say you don't have a car payment, but a lot of people do. A couple $100 for a car, at least $1,000 a month for rent. Some people are paying a lot more than that. If you live by yourself, it's going to be more. Um, you just have a lot of fixed expenses that when you make your money every month, you know, a large percentage of that is gone. It's automatically gone. You don't have any equity in whatever asset, right? Because you're renting. And so you're left with a small pool of money, maybe a couple $1,000s every month that you can either invest, or of course, if you want to do anything fun, which most people do, right? They want to buy clothes or go on vacation or whatever, buy stuff for their car or whatever you want to do, right? Go to the mall, online shopping with Amazon, right? Everything's so easy off your phone. Just even buying groceries or going to restaurants, right? It's very expensive to go to both of those places now. Even to the grocery store, I think a loaf of bread was like $7 or $8 when I went in. Now that's kind of the higher end bread, but still, like, the prices have gone up probably 100% just in the last few years for a lot of these things that most people eat. So has your income gone up 100%? No. Has your ability to make more money gone up? Probably not for most people. So I don't know. It's very uh, it's very interesting, and I think ultimately, it's up to the individual, as it always is, even if prices were cheap, right? If you want to change your situation, you have to be the one to do it. And that's something um, I was always told that, and I always kind of knew that, but until you really realize it for yourself, it's like, man, you know, uh, nothing's going to change in my life for better or worse unless I do something, right? I'll just be status quo if I, just continue to do what I'm doing. So you have to try to take a calculated risk, and whether that's changing jobs or starting a business or doing something where you can change the calculus of your outcome. Because when you have a very predictable like path, it's like nothing great is really going to happen. Now, it might be true that nothing bad is really going to happen, like you're not going to uh, be completely wiped out. But as far as having the ability to really change the situation in your life, uh, that'll probably only come by years and years of accumulation and of kind of deferring your spending by saving your money and investing it, which again, that's what a lot of people have done. But it just with inflation, it might still not even be enough. So you see people that work 30 something years at the same company, that they were sold the dream of being able to retire at whatever age and then live a good retirement. But now, because the prices have gone up so much and maybe the stock market is volatile, they're just not in a very good situation. So all the things they wanted to do, now that they're not working, are kind of off the table. And so maybe they're going back to like a part-time work or having to just adjust their life plan because of situations that were out of their control, right? The economic situation of the United States, of the world, inflation, everyone pays for that, whether directly or indirectly, whether it's through prices that go up or uh, just literally not having a very good job, right? There's just more people that are working. When you have more people that are working, uh, and you have jobs that I would say a lot of the jobs that have been created or that they're talking about are not very good paying jobs. They're part-time work, or they're um, jobs that you couldn't really support more than just yourself on. So I don't know. I'm kind of rambling now, but those are my thoughts on it. Just technology in general has changed a lot. It'll be interesting to see what the future holds, and There's 20 minutes of me rambling to myself. So if you like that, let me know, comment, and as always, have a good one.